I've done a bit of research into this, and one firm that advised Dr. Cable, Panmure Gordon, pointed out that the property at Mount Pleasant alone was worth £1.5 billion. That gave a share price at a potential of about 325. You telling me the rest of the Royal Mail was worth 5p? How was Mr. Cable doing his figures? With coloured beads on an abacus?
No, well, look, he's explained...
Mount Pleasant is worth 1.5 billion, Panmure Gordon says. That's 325, so the rest of the Royal Mail is worth 5p.
You know very well, Nick, that having done your research, that the share price doesn't depend on one asset of a company.
No, but that's how they valued the business.
They don't just value it, as it happens, just on the basis of one building. They value it on the basis of how they think the business is going to do in the long run. Is it going to successfully be able to stand on its own 2 feet? And as it happens, many people predicted that the price would be lower than even the price which was set by... Well, no, a fair number. And I'll tell you why. There was a lot of talk at the time about strike action. There was a lot of talk saying previous governments have done this and have, kind of lost their nerve at the last minute. So there was a lot of risk and uncertainty involved. And at the end of the day, the responsibility of Vince Cable, and a responsibility which he has successfully discharged, is to make sure that Royal Mail can stand on its own 2 feet. That we don't need to return to Andrew and taxpayers up and down the country to continually bail it out, and to take the best advice provided to him independently. He did all of those things. He did all of those things. If, I totally understand when people say, well, why did you not know then what the price is going to be today? Okay. I'll tell you why we didn't know then. Because it was then and not now. And
what is now, of course, is the Lazard involvement, of which I'm sure you're aware. The front page of the Financial Times today, the investment arm of the government's independent advisor on the privatisation of Royal Mail, making an £8 million profit, Deputy Prime Minister, selling shares during the first week of trading. This is Lazard. Your response to that?
Well, you've got to remember, there are, in a sense, two bits of Lazard, and there's a sort of Chinese wall between them. And you mustn't confuse one or the other. There's the
asset management.
Yes, asset management. Yep. They're the people who bought and sold the shares.
6 million of the 3.
And then there is Lazard Banks, which gave advice to the government. But they're not one and the same thing. The National Audit Office that looked at this aspect, and they did look at this aspect in their report about the flotation, were very clear that this was done entirely according to standard practice. That you have these distinctions within these institutions, and that there's absolutely no collusion or funny,
though, isn't it? Lazard and Co is the parent company.
What you should get the NAO, get the get the financial authorities, the regulators, onto your programme and ask them.
Lazard and Co is the parent company, is it not?
Yes, of course it is. But what I'm saying,
there's a bit of a whiff, isn't there, Mr. Clegg?
No, there is not a whiff. It's very clear, and I think you should be. You shouldn't suggest that there is a kind of whiff of collusion when there is none. When the National Audit Office has said there's absolutely none, and when these walls, these Chinese walls, if you like, exist within these financial institutions, have done, are strictly policed by the regulators.
My listener on the bus now, honestly, what is he or she meant to take from this, Mr. Clegg?
Well, I hope what your listener on the bus will say, if they're listening on the bus,
listen everywhere.
I'm delighted to hear it, up and down the country, indeed. Nationally, is that yes, of course, there is legitimate controversy, legitimate questions, and absolutely Vince Cable, everybody in government should be put under intense scrutiny about the decisions. But I hope no one will doubt the fact that Vince Cable took decisions based on independent advice, that he set the share price, as I say, at the higher range of the range that he'd been advised upon, and that at the end of the day, given how much uncertainty there was, given that this has been tried and failed in the past, and given that it's important that taxpayers aren't constantly kept on the hook for bailing out Royal Mail in the future, I think he's done a good job.